And we're live. Hey everyone. So if most of you know me, my name is Nachum Russell, or Russ to most of you, because nobody can say Nachum, so we won't even try that. And this is my buddy Jonas Black. A lot of you know him, some of you may not know him, and this is your way to get to know him, and that's the idea of the show, and it's a lot of fun. Jonas has kind of disappeared for a little bit, so this is very exciting for me to see his face. It's my first time seeing his face in a long time, and I'm sure for a lot of you who know him, it's exciting too. Jonas, you want to tell us a little bit about what you do, where you are, and all that?
So, sure. I like to say that I'm a pretty good dog trainer out of Austin, Texas. Um, we run a company out here called K911, and we proudly are the outliers of the dog training industry here. If there's one thing that I'm known for in the dog training world, it's my candid nature. Like definitely being outspoken, and sometimes that leads to good, sometimes that leads to bad. That's one of the reasons why I took my big long social media break, and I'm still on that break. I just wanted to come on and speak with my boy Russ and just see what's going on, and especially during these times now, like I've even surprised myself that I've been able to shut the fuck up on social media because of with coronavirus and with the protests and all this shit going on. So but it's been really refreshing to not have so many constant opinions. And I'm proud to say that my company, we didn't have to furlough anybody. We've been steadily cruising the entire way through. All my employees were able to make a living, and dogs were continuously sent to us from all over the state and all over the country. So it's been nothing but success throughout the COVID-19 stay-at-home stuff for us. It's been really
Oh yeah, that's awesome. And what would you say? What do you mean you guys are the outliers of dog training?
well. Here in Austin, we're a solid, pure positive community when it comes to dog training, and a lot of people don't know it, but in this city myself, I would there's a couple of us who really pioneered the balanced approach to be accepted, right? I was one of them out of the forefront. I used to be a pure positive dog trainer. Oh shit, I'm out of the closet, right? I used to be there, and I just saw the shortcomings of it, so I started speaking out against it. And it just, so everybody knows, every client that I took when I was a positive dog trainer or force-free pure positive, I went back and redid those clients for free when I realized that there were other ways to go about it. And it's stupid, though, that I was ever a pure positive dog trainer, because I fucking grew up working with wolves under one of the greatest wolves conservationists in Alamogordo, New Mexico, by the name of Steve Deal. So what the fuck was my problem, right? It's I'm just as guilty of being a victim of the brainwash and the propaganda. So what I did was I spoke out against it, and you don't really see too many pure positive trainers come out from the other side and speak up against pure positive dog training. So there was a bunch of rabble rousing that I did, and it worked. It got us noticed, and it got prong collars and e-collars very, very accepted in our city, where before it was super looked down upon.
Gotcha. How long have you been training dogs? I would ask first, and then also my other question is, how did you get into this? Because I know you weren't always a dog trainer.
Wasn't always a dog trainer, but I've always trained dogs. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. But you train dogs, but what was your journey into this becoming a profession, that you're a business owner of a dog training company?
So my journey into this becoming a profession was that I've been in dog rescue since I was 8 years old, right? And so I moved from Germany to Alamogordo, New Mexico, where I started working with wolves. Well, because I didn't really speak English, and I had a real bad stutter, and I was like, shit, I'll go shovel some wolf shit at the zoo and hang out with the animals instead, because I'm that's where I belong. It's with the fucking wolf. and just learned about their behavior, and moved forward and into dog rescue. Applied some wolf conjecture to that, because I believe that, especially owning huskies myself, those dogs tend to be far more genetically relatable to a wolf, in my opinion. They're ancient dog breeds. So you can't really compare a husky to a golden retriever, just in fucking disposition. And I think it's because they almost maybe like an intermediary breed in between those two. But we've had a lot of success with getting huskies off leash and things of that nature with, corrections. But the way that I got into it was just I was saving dogs. I was rehabilitating dogs. I was taking seminars from, all kinds of different dog trainers. And what ended up happening was, one day I just fucking quit bartending, and I couldn't fucking do it anymore. My band van broke down in Austin. originally. Then I just started bartending, and then one day I was like, I can't fucking do this anymore, and I started going to Town Lake here in Austin, and I started training people's dogs for free and working for free with rescues. And then people were like, "Whoa, you're really good at this shit," and I'm like, "Yeah, I've been doing it for 26 fucking years." And they were like, "You should turn this into a business." And I always felt bad for taking money for like helping dogs. Like it was like super like I didn't think I was needed, and I didn't think that it was something that I should be allowed to be paid for. And then once I realized that the dog training world is such a mess, like I actually underpriced myself. But that's how I got into it. It was a work of passion and just a calling. I think some of us are meant to do this. Some of us, I feel like, have to learn it. And I think there are a lot of great dog trainers that don't have true natural ability, but I feel like I've always been drawn to this. Like the behavioral side of things, I think is a very instinctual thing. I don't think you can truly teach how to work behavior if you don't have like if the force isn't with you, at least in some way, shape, or form, a little bit, right?
So Larry Crone says hi.
Hey, tell my boy Larry, I love you. It's good to see you, my friend.
I knew you'd want that.
But Larry's a great friend of mine, and the way Larry and I became friends is actually really, really interesting. It's a long and interesting story. You know, adversarial dog trainers and idiots from the Northeast. Also, like part of the reason the guy wasn't the reason why I took my social media break, but the rivalry that happened at the beginning of the year. I was like, I can't fucking deal with this dog training online shit anymore. Like my business is cranking. Like we're up 186% from last year alone during fucking coronavirus, right? Like we're fucking cranking. So I was like, I need to put my efforts into salvaging my relationship. I need to put my efforts into salvaging my business and really getting it primed and into me, because I lost myself inside of dog training. In the online world of dog training, I lost myself so much to the point where like I needed to get off of social media because of my mental health. Like it was affecting me to a point where like I was having suicidal thoughts, like because there's so much bullying going on inside the dog training world. Like everybody in the dog training world is like a fucking vegan, right? Like and to my vegans out there, like I like you, like you're cool.
Yeah, the cool vegans are cool.
Yeah,
we're talking about the other ones.
Cool. Shitty vegans are shitty, right? Like that's just the way it is. But like everybody's so like up their own ass, and everybody drinks their own Kool-Aid, and I'm guilty of drinking my own Kool-Aid. You know, like the shit that I do works. We haven't had a euthanasia out of my program. We haven't had a euthanized dog out of my program. I'm very proud of that, you know? So like, that doesn't mean that I'm better than anybody. It just means that I've been fortunate enough to not run into a dog that needed to be euthanized, right? That's all I'm saying there. But I'm proud of that. And I feel like most dog trainers drink their Kool-Aid so much, myself included, I'm not absolving myself from that statement, that sometimes we close ourselves off to the ideas of others in particular. And what I saw with Larry was him being disrespected by a well-known dog trainer. And I called both of them out for acting like bitches. And fucking Larry respected it. He goes, "Thanks, bud. I appreciate that." And I was like, "Oh, dude, Larry's a homie." Like I was like, Larry's a fucking homie. Like this dude's awesome. And so that's how Larry and I became friends. Was like, just the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Larry's a good man. He pops on here a lot, and he's one of the extremely supportive dude. And it's pretty cool to me that I know we're all just dog trainers, but that Larry Crone is hanging out watching me collaborate on social media is pretty cool to me. Larry's
one of the most like fucking rad dudes ever, right? Like, and like the fact that he's had there isn't a fucking dog trainer out there that uses an e-collar that hasn't fucking learned from Larry Crone. And that's the fucking end of it. And if you deny that, you're not knowledgeable. Like Larry Crone has indirectly taught all of us in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, for sure.
And and whether you've ever been to one of his seminars or not, or whether you've been to one of my seminars, if you've been to one of my seminars, you have fucking learned from Larry Crone, because I apply so much of his conjecture in my e-collar work in particular.
So I want to go back to your social media hiatus.
Yeah.
When you left social media, first off, are you actually off social media or are you just not posting?
I'm off.
Okay.
So
So
my
what was that like? Like leaving, because everybody compares social media to kind of like everyone's addicted to it, right? There's like an addiction. Was it like an addiction? Like, was this like, fuck, I can't do this without this social media thing? Or are you just like, I'm done and I'm fine?
my entire life revolved around social media. That's why my following on Instagram was like 220,000, right?
Right.
I just fucking deleted it. Like, I had to show that to myself that my business wasn't, I had to prove it to myself that my business wasn't a derivative of my social media status. I had to prove it to myself that my work that I've done in the past and the work that my company does is what will continue to generate the work. Because if there's one thing that the guy in the north that was like hyper focused on me, what he made me reevaluate was, am I just like,
I want to pause for 1 second. For those of you who don't know, we're not going to say any dog trainer's name, but there was one dog trainer that was bullying Jonas a lot before Jonas left social media. So a lot of people that are following this and watching don't know what we're talking about. We're not going to say names and we're going to keep it like that. But there was one trainer that was like hyper focused on bullying Jonas for the good work that Jonas did.
vigilant?
Yeah, that would be the right word. So
Like,
so just so people get what you're talking about before we go back into why you left and all that.
what was the last thing that I was saying?
You were saying, sorry, you were saying that one of the things that he was focusing on was that you were a social media dog trainer.
Right. And so he was like, oh, it's not about following. It's not about this. It's not about that. And it's like, yeah, you're fucking right. It's not. But it made me question myself, like, am I just this busy business-wise because of my social media presence, right? And like, because I've been popular on social media since MySpace, right? Like, I was in a band, in a pretty well-known like emo band, and like we toured all over the place and shit. And like, am I just like the heavily tattooed punk rock dog trainer that rides Harleys that like everybody loves because I don't fucking like take shit?
Kind of a cool thing to be known for, though.
I agree, and I actually have a pretty big announcement regarding that. It's with a collaboration with Harley Davidson, which is really cool.
That's dope.
But like, I had to prove to myself that like I wasn't, fucking the Michigan dog whisperer, whatever the fuck his name is. Like, I had to prove that to myself, and like, I got off social media, and my business exploded. So like, what does that tell me? It showed me that good work and word of mouth will lead the way no matter what. And it validated me, right? Because the video that was put in question was a one-off video. I normally don't put a dog on a muzzle, e-collar, and a prong, but it was taken completely out of context. The video was so taken out of context. It was either make progress with that dog that day, or that dog gets the blue juice, right? So at that point, you have to look at it and you go, do you value this dog's life or do you value dog training more? And so like for me, it's I will value the dog's life over it. Should I have posted that video? No, absolutely not. And because some people aren't ready for it, right? So if there's one thing that I can advise to younger balanced dog trainers is that everything that you put on the internet.
I know what the video was, but for dog trainers who don't know, because like in the comments here, a lot of the people don't know about any dog training drama, which is good. You should all stay out of it. And I generally don't know anything about it either. The only reason why I knew is because you were involved. And I was like, okay, this is my boy. I want to know what's going on. But generally, like and a lot of people who are following the comments are saying the same thing. We don't know anything about this drama. So what was the video that was in question so that people know what you're talking about not to post?
So the video that was in question was of a American Pit Bull Terrier wearing all the gear, right? Wearing all the gear on a place board, breathing heavy. The dog was stressed out because I removed the dog's coping mechanism, which was attacking. Right. So if you've dealt with behavior, you damn well know that at some point you're going to shut a dog down. At some point that a dog will shut down if you take away its coping mechanism. That's just what happens sometimes. I posted that and it got blown out of proportion. What should have happened in that situation was someone should have contacted me if they had an issue with the video. and been like, hey, maybe not post this. And Christopher Upton did that actually, and Larry Crone did the exact same thing. And they explained it to me. They were like, hey, this is like not acceptable to be posting because of the context. You weren't clear on context. So,
Right.
you know, publicly, I've apologized for the context of that video, 100%. But would I do that again? Yes. Drax is alive. Drax is happy. Drax is not flat. Like,
I think in general, I put up a video. I had like a workshop, seminar, whatever you want to call it, a couple months back in my local area, and one of the things that we were discussing was taking things out of context. This whole idea that happens all the time, where I think of it. The example that I like to use for it is like if you're walking down a hallway in a hospital and you don't even know it's a hospital, you're just walking down a hallway. You landed there, right? And you look through a keyhole and you see a guy on a table with a bunch of people in white masks cutting him open. It looks horrible. These are torture people.
Right.
But if you speak to the guy who was on the table and he comes out and tells you he had a triple heart bypass and like now he's alive for another 10 years because of those men cutting him open, you're going to get a full picture and you're going to know, right? And with dog training, so often either you accidentally post without context or somebody takes a video clip and takes it out of context and says, look at what this trainer did. He's a horrible human being. He just punishes dogs and nothing else. And now this dog is messed up. Let's see the dog 2 months later. Let's see the full picture post-surgery.
And that's the thing that pissed me off because there was an after. It wasn't just that.
There's always an after.
Fucking after. Like, I don't just post before videos. Are you crazy? Like that's crazy shit. Like, there was an after video of this dog in the exact same context on a place board, no muzzle, no anything like that, not attacking people, being happy off leash through e-collar work, through low-level e-collar work, because the dog had an e-collar on for acclimation purposes, because e-collar training starts without using the e-collar, right? Like that's just my opinion. I always condition the collar first, just so the dog doesn't really become collar smart for the most part. So that's why I had that collar on that dog. But that's the last that I want to talk about that because I feel like that because this will get shared. So it's like, and people like, and like, you know, gurus like Larry Crone who were following the situation. I just want everybody to know that I didn't get off of social media because of that idiot. You know, he didn't win. I took that break for myself to reevaluate where I was as a professional dog trainer and like whether or not my business actually was thriving off of social media or not. And in actuality, social media had nothing to do with it.
And that's awesome because for a lot of people, myself included, social media is a big part of my business. So it's cool that you can get to that point where you don't need it and you can still thrive without it. I'm very fine with saying I need it and I love it and it helps me a ton and I get all my clients from it. Yeah. But it's cool that you've gotten to that point where you don't need it. But I'm curious in terms of, so I spoke to another trainer recently and she took a social media break for totally different reasons. But I'm curious, what in your personal life, like how has it affected Jonas? Not business-wise, but how has it affected you as a person? Because social media is such a big part of life in 2020. Like, what has it done for you?
I'm less aggressive. Like it's like, I'm not sure if that, like, you know, whenever you get a dog and you decompress the dog, and the reason why we decompress that dog or keep the dog crated for a few days before I start working with that dog, like 2 or 3 days, and because we want to break that routine down to bare essentials, right? What it also does is it allows the central nervous system to calm down. And like, see, and this is where my content online was completely derailing. I wasn't talking about these things anymore, right? Like, I'm talking about actual science and overstimulated central nervous systems. A shit that a lot of other dog trainers don't talk about. That's why I started getting a following, was because of these things. So like, what's the first thing we do with somebody who's having mental issues? We put them in a non-stimulating environment, right?
Yep.
So I started having depression, severe anxiety. I couldn't function anymore. I couldn't get myself to go to the gym. Like I was becoming distant from my employees. Thank God my employees have my back. Kelly Anderson saved my fucking life, like legit business-wise. And I pulled everything away that was negatively impacting me. And so like, my lady and myself, well, I'm still trying to make things right with her because I fucked things up because of this entire social media thing. So like, here's the crazy shit, right? Is that the stay-at-home order comes in. I'm off social media completely, which has been a coping mechanism for the last 10 years of my life, right? And she needs a break from me. So she goes down to Houston to go to like stay at home with her friends, which is totally acceptable. You know, I was an asshole to her for sure. Go do those things. So I'm left with nothing except me and my shit, right? So during this stay at home, like to be able to like really reevaluate where I am in my life mentally, it was almost 6 weeks of just solitude. Like all I did every day was get up, go ride my Harley around the hill country, come home, eat, drink some whiskey, and go to bed. And like did that every single day. And I started to notice something: pattern, repetition, routine, and predictability gave me confidence to break out of my anxious state that I was in before. What is that? Structure in the fucking environment. It's the same shit that we're teaching dogs. And I was inadvertently, through my removal of social media, I started applying those things to my own life, right? And once I realized it, I was like, okay, now I'm going to spend 2 hours at night in place. Made myself sit down on my couch, no stimulation, and just chill the fuck out, read, you know, just calm or like meditate, and gave myself structured walks, you know, like where it's like exercise, where I gave myself a bedtime, where I gave myself like all these things which were able to bring predictability into my environment, which in turn grew my confidence. Because if I can predict my environment, you're going to get confidence, right? It's what we teach to dogs. Like,
it's fascinating how much of what we do as dog trainers and what we tell people to do all day is really exactly what the average person needs nowadays.
It's exactly it. And if you look at the world of dogs, it's directly reflective on the world of humans. We have fat dogs that are overly medicated on Xanax to deal with it, like, and they're just fucking overly fed. And like, no one gets told no, right? And like, I tend to like, we look at dog training and we look at politics, and there's just such a direct reflection of those two things, right? It's like everyone's so identitarian and like so like in their fucking camps, right? Like in their camps, it's like, oh, you can't use an e-collar, you're a bad dog trainer. Like, fuck off. Like every dog that goes through my program goes on a fucking e-collar. Like, period. But my dogs weren't trained on e-collars. Like that's the thing. Why? Because I was able to put the time into it, right? Like time and time and time. Have my dogs been trained on e-collars? Yes, of course they were. But my relationships with my dogs is so like solid that we don't really need them. But when we go outside, when we go off leash into a public place, bet your fucking ass my dogs are on e-collars.
You wear a seatbelt when you drive, right?
What?
That's the way I look at it.
And we've got people on our side, who believe in punishment, right? Who say that e-collars aren't necessary, and that if you need an e-collar, your dog isn't really responsive or fucking like doesn't have a bulletproof recall. That's right. Bullshit.
Now your dog's not trained if it's not wearing an e-collar. Like that's the big message that people are fed now.
Yeah.
And I recently wrote so obviously, like, I'm sure you get this question too all the time, and probably every single dog trainer gets asked is like, so does my dog need to wear the e-collar for the rest of their life? Right?
It's dependent.
Yeah. But my response is always like twofold. I believe if it works to make the owner's life better with their dog, which means that dog is staying home, that dog is having an enjoyable life, and the owner actually wants their dog there and loves their dog again, like, I don't care if you use an e-collar till the day the dog dies. You love your dog again. You get to appreciate it again.
Well, you're right. You didn't send me your dog because you fucking have a great relationship with that canine.
Right. If your dog is absolutely fine, we'd never be on this call. You'd never be spending thousands of dollars to send your dog to me. Like, it would be absolutely fine. So of course you don't need an e-collar then. Right.
Well, dog training and this is what I explain to clients all the time. And for any dog trainers out there who are starting their businesses, like, use this. This is a pitch that works. Dog training as a concept is punitive because we're talking about changing behavior,
Yep.
right? So if we're talking about operant conditioning, behavioral change does not come out of reinforcement. Behavioral change comes out of punishment. So dog training in itself is a punitive concept, right? So with that, like, you're already changing behavior. And this is where, like, for me personally, it gets so convoluted when we're looking at pure positive dog training. It's like, no one's calling me asking me how to fucking get their dog to keep being a good boy.
Yeah.
Right? Like, no, I wish that was my job. Like, you know, when you get into dog training, you think that's what it's going to be, and then you start to develop a fascination for behavior and things of that nature. But like, if we're looking at it, like, no one calls me to fucking keep their dog exactly the way they are.
No one spends money on this. The reason why I barely, like, and I'm sure you also, we don't get called much. I mean, occasionally, but for puppies, no, because puppies are fine. They're cute and their behaviors don't matter, and it's all fun and games.
I can't tell you the last time I did a puppy. Like a puppy? No, I don't fucking know. But fucking Angus, the 3-year-old Malinois that had no off switch? Yeah, for sure. Like,
yeah,
that's what we're
the best way, and this is probably every single owner who I've ever spoken to, whether they hired me or not, the conversation started something like this. Buddy is an awesome dog. He's great. He's so sweet. I love him so much. So, like, why are you on the phone with me? Because then I just sit quietly during that beginning part because I know the whole speech already. You have the best dog in the whole world, and he's awesome, and he's amazing. And then there's but. And then whatever starts after but is what I actually care to hear about. Because that's the part you're calling me for. You might as well from now on start your conversation with, but this is what I need help with. My dog bites. My dog pees in the house. He's crazy. He doesn't stop.
Isn't that, like, think about that though? Isn't that sad that we are so muzzled down as a society that we can't even say our dog's an asshole?
Yeah.
And that's where, like, whenever I do consultations with clients, I have that same shit. Dog's great, except it's bitten 3 fucking people, and it's like, your dog sucks.
Yeah. Like, the exact definition of a bad dog. Don't call your dog good.
Like, and it doesn't matter whose fault it is. That dog's not a good dog right now because we're biting. Now that doesn't mean we can't get there.
Right.
Like, if we're biting people, we're not a good boy or a good girl, and we don't have to. I don't know. I think people are so, like, anthropomorphic in the way that they approach their own dog ownership, in the way that they just, like, and I understand that from a human from a human psychological standpoint, the way that we connect with things is to assign.
So think about it, even like humanizing it. So I love this thing where everybody says, like, most dog trainers say don't humanize a dog, which obviously I agree with that. But if you want to humanize a dog, let's humanize it. If I woke up every single day and just walked down the street punching people in the face, you wouldn't say this guy's an awesome dude, but he punches people in the face. You'd say this guy's a piece of shit. He needs help.
Right. And here's the main difference between learning between humans and between dogs, right? Is that humans have this incredible, like, thing where smart humans will listen to information and learn from information that we're able to give back and forth through fucking words, right? Dogs don't have that. Like, they have to learn through experience. And sometimes it's as easy as, this leads to shit I like, I'll keep doing it. This leads to shit that's undesirable, I'll discontinue doing it. And it really, it doesn't have to be overly complex and overly complicated. And that's where a lot of dog trainers fucking want to overcomplicate everything and drink their own fucking, like, juice or their own Kool-Aid and think that they have it all figured out, when in actuality, homies, every mammal adapts behavior the exact same way. This leads to good, I'll continue. This leads to undesirable, I will discontinue if I'm smart. Right?
And we do the same thing. Like, again, the only difference is that I can learn from your experiences as opposed to just my own, right? Exactly. So you can tell me, don't go down that street, there's potholes, your car is going to get broken. And if I'm smart, I'll listen to you. Right. But I wouldn't learn that lesson also if I drove down it myself and popped my tires, right? And Absolutely. Like, we learn the same way, except that our higher level of intelligence that most of us humans have allows us to like understand and learn from someone else's experience. But
Correct.
dogs don't do that. They don't have that. They can't like a dog comes into a program and the other dog is like, yo, don't do that. He's gonna punish you.
Nah, don't.
Yeah, like there's none of that. And that's where the humanizing part of dog trade or of dog ownership, that's where it goes sour. Is like we don't humanize it in the right way.
Correct. And correct. We should be dogifying ourselves, like, and then looking at it and seeing like if that would be appropriate, right? Like, can I just go mount somebody's leg? You know, no,
Right.
I'm not allowed to do that. Like, I've done it in a drunken state, you know, like for sure. But I got punished for it because it was my best friend Eric.
Right, you got punished for it, exactly, and you didn't do it again.
Someone fucking told me no, you know, and like there are plenty of humans that are much smarter than I am because like I repeat the same mistakes like fucking over and over and over because I'm so bullheaded, and I think eventually I'll plow through, you know. But you know, I've never called myself the smartest dog trainer or the best dog trainer. I don't think I'm either one of those things, but I definitely know that my company does great work, and no one can tell me different anymore.
So how long were you training dogs as a purely positive dog trainer before you realized this is not working the way it could be?
For about 5-6 years, or for about 5-6 years.
What would you say was that switch? Because a lot of dog trainers started off purely positive.
You want to know what the switch was?
Yeah.
It was a Korean couple. It was a South Korean couple. Like the dog's name isn't with me at the moment. I'll remember it. But we had been trying to get this dog to fucking heel on a harness for like fucking 10 sessions, right? And they fired me. And they were like, they were like, later, dude. I was like, okay. They sent me a video of their dog healing on a prong after one session with another trainer. And I said, well, that hurts the dog. And they said, no, it fucking doesn't. And when my clients who fired me and found happiness with another dog trainer were like, no, we're happier with this, I looked at it and I went, okay, like there's got to be a reason why other dog trainers are able to get results so much quicker than I'm able to get results. And it's not because we're using fear, you know, and this is something that I want to stress to everybody out there who might not even know what the fuck balanced dog training is. We use punishment in balanced dog training. But the thing is that every dog that comes out of my program, and I know yours too, is happy to work. Happy to work. Most people believe that our side of dog training utilizes fear as a motivator. And while fear can be helpful, like there's no question that that fear is involved in the concept of respect, right? What's the root of fucking respect? The root of it, like from a conceptual standpoint, is a little bit of fear, just a little bit. But there's a difference between respect and fear, and then working happily and working out of fear. You can tell a dog that's been slagged off with a prong or an e-collar a mile away. You can tell them the eyes. The eyes will tell you a lot on where that dog is mentally. But dogs that come out of my program, because we use such low level on prongs and e-collars and everything that we use, they come out happy as fuck. And you'll attest to this. How many times have you gone to a client's house just for a leash session? You put a prong on that dog is healing in 10 minutes, and they go, God, I spent $1,000 with a pure positive trainer. They couldn't get that.
It's sad because
I was that pure positive trainer, man. I was that guy. And so I went back and I fixed all my fucking errors.
I think it's the coolest part about what you did is like, okay, it's great. You went from purely positive to balance, and now you're training dogs properly and all of that. But like the fact that you took responsibility for all those past clients and you said, all right, now I could really help you. And like, let's do this. That's very cool, because I don't know if I know anyone else who's ever done that. That's a very cool thing.
I appreciate that. I've always put my money where my mouth is. And like, especially for even like the bigger guys like Chris Upton and Larry Crone, the guys who had been following me like for a long time, because I never marketed myself to the dog training industry. I always marketed myself to people who needed dog training, right? Like
that's the idea.
Like Like if Larry's in Austin, we want to have a beer. That's cool. But like it'll be as friends and not as dog trainers, right? Like I like making friends, and if we happen to be dog trainers, that's cool. I don't want that to be a basis for friendship, right? Like it's unimportant to me. I marketed myself to people more so than anything else, which is why my business grew fast. Because everybody else is trying to prove themselves to other dog trainers, and it's fucking unnecessary. You don't have to prove yourself to fucking anyone if you're doing quality work, you know?
Well, I never ever, I mean, I think it's awesome that I've built a big network of dog trainers who I consider friends and colleagues and all that. But when I started using social media, my number one goal is to let people know that there is hope for your dogs.
Yes.
And that your life with your dog can be drastically different and better than it is today with some very simple things. And here, let me show you how it's done. That's literally the beginning and end of it. Now, did it build much nicer than that? Absolutely. I have no regrets. Like, I met you. I met all sorts of cool, awesome people through social media because I put myself out there. And I think that probably a part of why I made those connections was because I wasn't marketing to dog trainers. It was just, there's much more authenticity to it when you say, I'm here for the owner. I'm here for the dog. I'm here for the person who needs my help. And dog trainers don't need my help. Like, I don't have much to offer to dog trainers. I'm just a young dog trainer like everyone else.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, and this is what I always tell people too, like to do what we do, like the dog training that we do, like the basic obedience stuff. Let's say we're talking heel, auto, sit, door manners, reactivity, place, e-collar, recall. It's not hard. Like it's the application of it. Reading the dog is the gift, right? Like reading the dog is what you have to be aware of. But the actual applications of this stuff is not that difficult. And like, I don't want people out there to be hesitant to pick up, you know, an e-collar or a prong collar because they think that they have to go through a trainer when there's plenty of good resources on the internet even. Or like get like Larry's book, right? Like get Larry Crohn's book, man. That book's great. It tells you so many scenarios in which he's used the e-collar. I wish when I read it initially, I wish.
For those of you who want to know what book it is, this is the book. Can you see it? E-collar by Larry Crone. It's the easiest to understand step by step how to use an e-collar for any, and it's not meant for dog trainers. You don't need to know anything about behavior or dog knowledge. Just read the book and get the tool.
It's fucking like there, like that is the fucking like gospel of it, right? Like that, like if all you have to do is be able to read and press buttons. And you can fucking do that. And that's not to plug Larry's book or anything. It's just like, that's the first book that I bought when I started getting like into the e-collar shit, right? Because I started using prongs because coming from a pure positive background, like I was like, I would never use electricity on a dog, right?
It's like a slowly easing yourself into like the dark side.
Slowly put my feet into the pool, because what we have to understand about the pure positive side of dog training is that they are half right. They are half right, right? Like
well, they're right about the positive reinforcement, not right about the pure part.
Right. Right. The pure, I mean, pure positive dog training is fucking horseshit. There's no such thing as it, and as it is anyway. Force free is even worse, in my opinion. Like, it's just like you can't even put the dog on a leash. Like here in Austin, I got attacked by a publicly ran shelter. Publicly, like the city funded that shelter. I got attacked by that fucking shelter because I went online and I said, you know, your tax dollars are keeping these 40 dogs in the back of this shelter alive.
You're posting that.
Like they're fucking alive, but their quality of life is fucking terrible because every time that they attack the fence, they get treats thrown at them. Like, what? Like, the fuck do you think? You're not doing anybody any service by promoting this way of dog training. And because I was a victim of it and made an ass of myself from it, I'm kind of able, like, while I trash the pure positive side, the pure positive dog trainers, if I meet them in person, I always speak with them. And like,
they're not doing, like, you were one of them. It's not like there's some sort of evil to it. It's not like we want the dogs to stay in this messed up state. It's all generally comes from a good healthy place. Like, of course there are some people who have some strange agenda. I think so, but those people are all the way on top. But the average dog,
Victoria Stillwell, we'll just straight up fucking say her. We'll say her name, Victoria fucking Stillwell. She's a terrible fucking person. Like,
right. But the purely positive dog trainers who like live 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and they're doing their thing. You love dogs and you care about dogs, and that's why you do it that way.
Right. And like, is there a place for pure positive dog training? For fucking sure. Like, if we're talking about like agility, like that type of shit, like, yeah, fucking clickety click. Like, and I mean, I use clickers and markers all day long. Yeah. And I learned timing of clickers and markers from a pure positive approach, right? And then, but the thing is that if we're really looking at a pure positive approach and we're looking at click treat being stimulation and then a reward, or stimulation and then a reward, which is going to associate whatever we just gave negatively or positively, what's the difference between click treat and e-collar affection? What's the difference? If it's a low-level stimulation, it's the same concept, which is that we're giving something being a stimulation, and then we're giving something to give an association to that stimulation, right? Mm-hmm. So what the fuck is the difference if we're not using pain? Zero difference. People just don't like the thought of electricity. Anyway, most pure positive dog trainers' intentions are so spot on, and they're so right in their empathy, and they're so right in the things that they feel, like the way that they can relate and be compassionate. I more than a few shelters here in Austin, I've converted from a pure positive approach to a balanced approach. And it's not because I go on and I go, fuck you, fuck, you know, like that's like an online thing, like, you know, like whatever. But we go and we sit down, I bring in clients where they said that dog should be euthanized. And then they see the results that we're able to get with not even heavy punishment, just putting structure in the fucking environment. How many times have you gotten a dog that's aggressive? You fucking get the dog into your home, into your board and train, and there's no aggression. Like,
something that I've been saying this for years already, that I think purely positive dog trainers continue not punishing dogs if that's what you want to do. Sure. Like, that's all on you. It's fine.
But don't claim behavior.
Right. But even with behavior, this is, I think, even with behavior, you can make drastic change with never punishing a dog by adding structure and boundaries. And there's a difference. And it doesn't have to be with punishment. Absolutely. But creating a dog, teaching it place, taking away its free roam, deciding what the dog does instead of it deciding what it does for itself. All those things that we do without punishment. There's a reason why a dog can come to me and on day one, it's acting differently. I haven't done anything crazy. Right. I put it in a cage. As soon as it comes to me, it goes in a cage. Like, I don't cuddle the dog. I also don't punish the dog. It's just, you go in a cage and then you come out and we go for a walk and we're not hanging out and talking.
And it's simple. And it's fucking simple. You go to your crate and that's what you do. And I am convinced, because we do service dogs. So like, I am fucking, we do psych service dogs. That's what, but I'm convinced that dogs smell cortisol. I am fucking convinced that the pheromone attached to cortisol fucking permeates a dog's nose. I'm fucking convinced by it, because so I have high functioning anxiety. So whenever I have an anxiety attack and we have a service dog in for training, I'll train that dog during that time because my cortisol is pumping. So we actually just had one of my service dogs, Ruby, the golden doodle. Her handler disassociates whenever she has a panic attack, and she was driving to Dallas. This is on my Yelp, K911 Austin, if you guys want to check it out. This is a real fucking story. I trained this dog for cortisol detection, and her handler started having a dissociative panic attack while driving up to Dallas and zoned out completely, and Ruby crawled out of the back seat and patted and saved the handler's life.
Wow.
And there was no signs given, right? Because we're normally going off cues, right? More so than anything. The only thing that was done was she started stressing out and throwing cortisol in there. I'm so proud of that. Like, that's fucking
very cool. So like, when I don't know, I really don't know anything about service dog training or scent detection for that matter, and it really goes hand in hand kind of what you're saying. Do you take sweat from somebody who has cortisol, or you just train them when they're in that mode?
We'll train them together when they're in that mode, and then I'll train them in the board and train format when I'm producing an amount of cortisol, because I'm aware of it. So like, because I've dealt with anxiety my whole life, when I'm having those panic attacks, I'm still high functioning. You'll never know when I'm having a panic attack. But my body's cortisol is just pumping. Like, so
fascinating. Like that you're able to, you're able to still function, and then you're able to use that to help somebody else. I think that's amazing.
Thanks, man. Like it's just like one of those things where like we look at it and like when we can look at something that's our weakness and turn it into strength, right? Like you and I have had a conversation about my personal like addictive personality, right? Like I turn that into a superpower through fitness. I turned it into a superpower through becoming obsessed with behavior, and I built a business off of that addictive personality. I just channeled it into the right facets. Yep. And I think that people with addictive personalities, I think that there's a lot of genetics going on there, but I think that those genetics also come with motivation, because there's no more motivated of a person than a junkie who's looking for his next fix. and with that, I think that genetics are I think the desire to succeed inside humans is genetic. And I just happen to be on that fortunate and unfortunate side of things where anxiety is a side effect of that, because I always want to do better, right? I always want to one-up myself no matter what. But that whole cortisol shit, like, I don't like guarantee that or like anything, right? Like it's like, because it's so like up in the air still.
Yeah.
But like
a lot of it, I think, is, I mean, just from hearing it and understanding dogs a little bit that I do, I would think that a lot of it also comes from a very strong bond between the dog and owner.
100%. I mean, everything.
Like seizure detection. Like right?
Yeah.
Seizure detection, from what I've heard, a lot of it that could be trained, but a lot of it also comes from just a strong bond.
Fucking, how many times have you sat with your dog and your fucking dog just, right when you needed it, your dog put his or her head on you? Like, right when you needed it, right? And I'm not saying dogs understand us, but I'm saying that dogs understand us more than I think we give them credit for sometimes. And that's something that the social media absence has really given me, which is a new true appreciation for my dogs, for my personal dogs. And first off, we're all about to get hit real hard because people came up with unsustainable routines for their fucking dogs during COVID.
I know, it's crazy.
Like I would listen to like my friends on the phone. I was taking our dog to the park every fucking day, and I was like, shit, don't do that.
It's the first time in my life I've ever told people to stop walking your dogs.
Yeah, stop walking your dog 8 times a day. You're conditioning an athlete, right? But like, it's just fucking insane, like the way that we tend to formulate these behavioral patterns so quickly as humans, and all we have to do to change them is to become consciously aware of them. And I think that as dog trainers, what we do is we become consciously aware of the dog's behavioral patterns, and then we help that dog out by changing it for the dog. And
essentially, I look at dog training for myself as a lot of it is personal development. That's how it's been in my life.
Dude, who fucking, like, every good dog trainer has been through some shit, bro. Like,
yeah. It's what makes us good. But like, I've said this so many times that when, obviously, like so many dog trainers out there, I started off in dog training because I had a shithead dog and I needed to figure out a way to deal with this. And he was extremely reactive. He was one of the worst dogs I've ever trained. And he was extremely reactive, dog reactive, people reactive, aggressive, dog fights, bit people, everything. It was a lot of fun. And I knew I couldn't get rid of my dog because that wasn't an option. He was also my first dog. I didn't grow up with dogs, so I knew nothing at all. And the only thing that I could say I did right was I crate trained him from day one. So that's the only thing. But looking back on our journey, I guess if you want to call it together, is like I was reactive as hell in my life too. And I'm not saying that I caused his reactivity, but what I am going to say is that by learning how to help him with his, it for sure gave me a way of like, this can work for me too.
Isn't that the fucking truth of the matter? Like, and that's where I think it's easier just to say, yeah, I caused my dog's reactivity, right? Like, and it's the same with clients. Like, whenever clients are like, do you think this is my fault? I'm like, yeah.
Well, it's important. The way I look at it is like, it's important I switch it from fault to responsibility. because it's not your fault, because you didn't do this. You didn't be like, I want a reactive dog, right?
Sure.
It happened based on the lack of knowledge. That's
Sure.
99% of the time, right?
You're so much nicer than I am, man. Like, like I'm like all about like 100% accountability. Like, you fucked your dog up, man.
Right, but 100% accountability means responsibility.
Yeah, sure.
It's not like you're off the hook.
Yeah.
Now that you know better, you better do better.
Your verbiage is so much better than mine. I like, man. Like, wow. I'm developing like a little crush. I'm like, oh wow, he's so much more charming than I am.
Listen, we each have our own crowd, though. That's the beauty of it. It's like that's the whole idea.
And that's the fucking truth of the matter. You know, it's like I tell everybody. I tell everybody I'm not for everybody, and I'm not. I don't want to be. like, because then I'm not me. And like, you know, I don't have any issues being like who the fuck I am. I think everybody knows that by now. But like I think people get a false perception of who I am because of like just how brash and like just transparent I give my heart to everything, and like they get a false perception. Like people are always full of themselves. I'm really not. I'm my own.
You're the crazy tatted dog trainer, right?
Yeah, like, dude, I'm my own worst fucking critic. Like, you know, people are like, oh, he's so fucking confident and shit. Then you think like all these tattoos don't stem from confidence. Like they're all battle scars, and like, you know, like we help dogs. Like I help dogs because like seeing an aggressive dog come out of an aggressive state or a fearful state, knowing that I help that dog like makes me fucking feel good. You know, like it makes me feel good. Like when we're blessed enough to be doing something with God's greatest fucking creatures. Like, you know, like I think what my online presence did was strip the love, like the way that I just carry myself, because I'm heavily guarded emotionally, right? So like I think what I inadvertently caused was almost like where it almost came across like that I don't love dogs, but like I love dogs. Like I love dogs more than anything in this world. Like that's why I do what I do. Like that's why like I don't put this shit on social media, but like for like every board and train that gets booked, I'm in a shelter, like putting in the monetary equivalent of my time into that shelter. The amount of rescue work that my company has done is unmatched by any dog training company in Texas, period. Like we take the toughest rehabs for fucking free a lot of the time. Like I don't brag about that shit. Like I don't put it out there that like when I started my company, I would go to the boys ranch out in Spicewood, Texas, where sex trafficked boys went, and we applied teaching fearful dogs how to be confident to those boys as well. And you saw them open up through training dogs. I don't put all that shit out there because I don't feel like I have to. I don't have to sell myself to anybody, right? But like I look back on what I was doing, and it really just comes across sometimes I was more into me than I am into dogs. And like I love dogs, man. Like like I love what I fucking do. Like I love this shit more than I love anything else in my life. Dogs.
What do you love so much about it?
The purity. I love working behavior with dogs because there's purity. Because I've never had a dog lie to me, man. I've never had a dog lie to me. That motherfucker doesn't like me, he's gonna bite me. You know?
There's nature doesn't lie ever. There's no such thing of that. It can't. It's just not a part of it.
A dog may be a social opportunist, but they're not a backstabbing motherfucker, you know? And like, I think that's one of those things that like, I just honor so much. And like people are, and then, you know, there are a lot of people who say, oh, my favorite part about dogs is their undying love. And shut the fuck up. No, like you should, you should love the purity and the behavior that's exhibited with your dog. It's incredible. They want to stay, they'll stay. They like you, they'll let you know. They don't want to be next to you. They'll go to the bedroom.
They don't. Lying is a human thing. It doesn't exist with any other animal, any other part of nature. It's just a human trait.
It's crazy, and like, it's like instinctual, right? Like I watch my best friend watch her raise her kid, and like this little fucker lies all the time. there's like social opportunism going on there. He's like, well, maybe if I bend the truth here and there, but you know, you're always going to get a purity in any dog that you work with. And like, that's why I'd rather be around dogs than people. Cause like for me, like, and it sucks because I thought when I became a professional dog trainer that I would just work with dogs a lot, but it ends up being that my forte truly is working one-on-one with people. Like, it's like, because like I'm a firm believer in building my clients' confidence. So like, I don't even do a lot of board and trains anymore. I just focus on the one-on-ones where the relationship has affected the dog to a tumultuous, like, to where tumultuous behavior is coming out now, over coddling, that type of deal. And that requires, I think, a lot more intervention from a professional side than just training the dog. That's where this becomes a people industry, because, you know, my trainers underneath me, they get the basic stuff and I'll handle the people. And the people are the toughest nut to crack, because you cannot, if you don't understand human psychology, the psychology of who's handling the leash, and you can't get a good read for those people right away, and having hustled growing up, like you being a salesman, like on multiple different products, legal or not, like, you know, like you learn how to read people real quickly through their body language.
At the end of the day, like we kind of mentioned it before, but you can't change a dog without the person changing. And if how
many times have you sent a dog back, and that dog was with you for leash reactivity, had no leash reactivity with you? 4 days later, Fido's fucking going crazy on a leash, and it's like,
how many times does it happen to me? 0. But that's because I believe in owner education. So
so here's the thing. You're gonna run into this eventually. You're gonna run into it, and it's normally this. Because we've done 8,000 dogs now in Austin. So, like, you're going to run into that eventually.
No, of course, because there's always going to be the owner that's not really willing to change as much as you know is necessary.
But the thing is that it's always, they're still in a psychological state where, like, the dog is leading the walk even at a heel, right? So, like, what sets the structure for a walk? What sets the tone? How we come out the door, right? That's like the most important thing. But the dog comes back, and despite the warnings, they go, "You want to go for a walk?" And the dog's all fucking amped up and shit. They're like, "The prong collar isn't working," and that's my least favorite fucking sentence I've ever heard, because the prong collar doesn't do the work for you. The prong collar is a tool that translates the training, right? And it makes it easier for the owner to have control of your dog. It makes it easier to translate the training from owner to dog, because not everybody is a dog trainer, which is why I adapted the prong and the collar into my training protocols, because it translates the training so much more clearly for people who aren't dog trainers, right? Yep. So we've got people on the balance side who don't believe in even using prong or e-collars, right? There's like, oh, martingales and like whatever. That's fine. But if you have an owner that's naturally insecure, that person is going to get that dog to heel much quicker on a prong collar than fucking having to teach that person proper pacing with every.
This is a confidence booster for owners.
Of course it is. Of course it fucking is. And like, there have been a couple of times where I got clients who were like, God, my dog recalled, and like, I didn't even have the receiver collar on. I just pressed the button, but it's the way that I said it and the confidence that I have that the dog comes back. It's 100% a confidence booster. It's for the owner. It's for the owner to use humanely, to have a better relationship with that dog. And that's why, as a former pure positive guy, I adapted that into my protocol, because I saw that when I was training dogs pure positively, those dogs would cook me omelets, you know, like me, but it doesn't fucking matter,
right?
If they do it for me, you know?
Yeah, we're not training dogs for ourselves. We're not training dogs just for the dog. Like, these dogs all are owned by somebody, and they got to go back home and live the rest of their life with that person. And you kind of touched on this, but prong collars and e-collars are amazing tools. Like, I use every single dog that goes through my program gets one, but it's a communication tool. right? And if you're not giving the right message, like you could have a cell phone, I could have a cell phone, but if I talk to you in gibberish, you're still not going to understand me. It doesn't matter what tool we use.
Exactly.
So that's really what people don't get about is you don't put an e-collar on a dog and have a trained dog. You train a dog and you have an e-collar to communicate training, and now it's going to work when you actually communicate training.
And my philosophy is you train the dog first, and then you layer this shit over it.
Right.
Like that's the way, and the way that I like to train prong and e-collar is very similar, and that's that pressure means pay attention to me.
Yep.
That's all it means is when you feel the pressure, pay attention to me, which is why it drives me fucking up the wall when balance trainers who are using e-collars will say come and then hit the e-collar. Like for me, it's hit the e-collar, then you give the command because we have the attention, right? You're just punishing for not recalling at that point. That's not proper usage in my opinion. Like it should be stim first and then you layer the command over it. The dog should be trained first before we layer the e-collar into it. Now, can we go into like this is just for my board and train, right? Like, can the average dog owner buy Larry Crohn's book and e-collar train their dog? Most likely.
Yeah, most likely.
Most likely, but the question always is that I get asked, how young can we start a dog on an e-collar? Well, it's not really age dependent. It's where you're at in the dog's training. That's so vital. Like, where are you in your relationship with your dog, right? Because, like, if your relationship is a clusterfuck, we can't just go using an e-collar. Like, I think you should still use basic puppy cultivation techniques, like, you know, producing good behavior before you throw e-collars into it. For me, anyway, which is why, like, we in my board and train program, we do that. The first week is basics without any tools. First week is basic without any tools. We don't teach a heel with a prong. We teach a heel and then we layer the prong over it because that's what's going to translate it very, very nicely to the owner. And just to let everybody out there know, like when we train a dog, I'm that dog's trainer for the rest of that dog's fucking life. Like fucking no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We as a company, we do every Saturday morning. Everyone that's gone through a training program with me gets a free class every fucking week for the duration.
Yeah, what do you do by the leash walking class? Because I see you talking about it on your Instagram. What do you do there?
What do we do there? We recreate.
It's clients that I've already trained with you, right?
Yep. So it's clients that have trained with me, so that way they're able to maintain the training throughout their entire life. Even if they need a little bit of extra support, you know, like, hey, like I don't have the money to like do 10 follow-ups with you in the package or like whatever. Okay, cool. Just come to these leash classes because they're fucking free because you're already spending a fuck ton of money with me to do a board and train. I want to kick you as much help as I possibly can and make you feel like I'm always available for you and your dog's relationship. It's super important. So what we do there is we do dog passes. We actually take the dogs through an off-leash dog area, make sure that there's no reactivity going on there. And then we do very close passes. And then we do e-collar checks on 20-foot long lines and things of that nature. So like for me, these classes every Saturday is what I offer as a lifelong maintenance program because I'm already a successful white dude. Like I might as well like kick as much shit back to people who believed in me as I possibly can. Like, you know, there are a bunch of other trainers who do the same thing, who are like, all right, well, included in the pricing of my package are these many follow-ups, right? It's like, no, this is the training, and then you get free shit for the rest of your life. Like,
so it's basically like a unlimited like follow-up sessions as a group, so you get to keep things going. That's very cool. I like that idea.
And here's the fucking rad part, and everybody should like copy this because it's like it's a huge selling point. Like just for free business consultations for all the young dog trainers who are trying to start a successful business out there. Differentiate yourself. Put your money where your fucking mouth is. Every one of you has 2 hours on a Saturday morning to give back to your clients. Like every single one of you has 2 hours to give back to your clients. And the dope thing is that your clients come to these classes, they're around other people with their dogs on prongs and e-collars in a structured format. You get this. So we normally have 20 to 30 people show up. and we get this huge group with these perfect fucking dogs. Like, people come up all the time and go, "The fuck is this?" And then the prime marketing opportunity. You don't have to sink money into marketing to create a clientele. You can just put time into it, and you're gonna like. I have a lifelong business in Austin, and it's because of how devoted my clientele is to me. And you know, everybody probably assumes that my fucking leash classes are filled with heavily tattooed people that curse a lot. Yes, they are. But we also have the MAGA hats, we have the Black Lives Matter shirts, and we have all these people who come to these leash classes. We're super diverse. And like, it's cool because we're all there for the dogs, right? Like it's like
community around what matters to everybody there.
They're fucking dogs. And then we just reinforce proper handling for those owners and continue to build their confidence. And whenever their dog does something awesome and they're handling their dog, we give credit to the owner, right? We don't go, "That's a good boy." We go, "That's what I'm talking about, Ted. That's the shit. You did that. You did that." And that's really like where I think a lot of dog trainers go wrong, is that they don't build their clients up too much. Like
the dog didn't train itself, right? And it didn't say that itself.
Correct. And that's, you know, it takes humans to reinforce that training on top of it. So whenever I see a dog that comes to leash class, where we had a little Doberman Pinscher mix, Harvey, fucking locked up fear, like just like shit himself, like real fear, like to the point where we were like, "Oh, let's try," right? That dog is completely 180 turned around. It's because the owners followed through with the protocol. And what was the protocol? Structured walking, place, crate, off leash recall with an e-collar. How many problems have you solved with loose leash walking, structured walking, place, crate, and e-collar?
There's a reason for those things, though. It's not like teaching a dog to spin around and do tricks. There's a reason for those specific things.
There's a psychological implementation of those trainings, right?
Yeah. And that's structure, right? Yeah. That's what structure is, essentially, is using these very, very basic, simple commands to create boundaries for the dog's life, so it has a safe boundaries to live within. It doesn't have to go crazy anymore.
Absolutely. And this is, you know, we're clients who, when we're doing a consultation, they're like, "Oh, you don't teach the dog speak?" I'm like, "Fuck no, I don't." We don't teach the dog speak, but what we do teach the dog is how to function when it's properly communicated with. My least favorite saying in the world is, "My dog is stubborn." It's like, is your dog really stubborn, or are you just not communicating clearly with your dog? Because 98% of the time, that dog is not fucking stubborn. You know, like.
Yeah, if you talk to me in a different language, I'm not going to answer you. I just don't know what to do.
I'll answer, but it'll be real funny. But like, it's one of these, like, how did you get into dog training? What's your story?
Me.
Yeah,
so I had
fucking know. You're one of the homies in this industry. I don't even fucking know how you got into dog training.
I had my first dog, Marley, who was a bad dog. I'm not going to make it like he was a great dog, but he was a bad dog. And I started off, I got him as a young puppy. So obviously everything was great and fine. I treated him like my little infant. I carried him everywhere. He's a big about 95 to 100 pound Roddy mix. So he's a big dude. But as a baby, I carried him around everywhere. He slept in my hoodie. I snuck him into restaurants. I snuck him into the movies. Like, he was my son, and I took him everywhere with me. And I did every single thing that I tell owners not to do. I did all of it. Like, the only thing that I didn't do was I crated him. The only thing I did properly was I crated him at night, because I just realized that he was going to make a mess of my house and I didn't want poop everywhere. But that was the one thing that I did proper. And then at around 6-7 months, all of a sudden, this dog became a different dog. And he wasn't the sweet dog that I knew. He started pulling me down the street. It started just with pulling on the walks and pulling me down the street. Eventually, it was leash reactivity. He got into multiple dog fights. Obviously, I went to the dog park, because what else do you do with a dog with high energy? You go to the dog park, right? So
No, you would never ever say that it's not high energy and anxiety and relax the dog instead. No, you make it worse.
No. Well, I had no way to know, right? To me, it made sense. You have a dog with high energy, you bring them to the dog park so they can play and have friends, right? It all made total sense to me. And that's why I understand where owners are coming from, because I was that owner. And then things got really, really bad because it doesn't get better, right? And it doesn't get better on its own. So he started biting people. He became very protective over me. So he was resource guarding. And eventually, like I hurt my leg, and my mom was walking him for me, and she fell. And I was like, okay, like this is bad, right? Like I can't. I think that was like the thing that like really triggered. Like I have to make change. Not the fact that he was biting other dogs.
Yeah.
And I couldn't afford a dog trainer then. I honestly had no idea that dog training was an industry. I had no idea that there was any sort of industry based around dogs. I knew there were vets to bring animals to. That was the most that I knew about dogs when it came to like making money off of them. And I started this journey of figuring out how am I going to help my dog. And I made a ton of mistakes, obviously, because I wasn't paying for a dog trainer. I had no professional help. It was a lot of trial and error. I eventually found balanced dog training. I learned that it's okay to punish your dog, and not only is it okay, it's going to help him.
Yeah.
And he finally was like, "Oh, it's bad to bite people. Thank you. I didn't know." And things started to click. I added a ton of structure into his life, and things got better really, really quickly. Obviously, I would say it's still a journey with him, because I think he has a reactive side to him that's still in there. Sure. And I think that's just a part of who he is, whether it's genetic or whether it's I fucked him up as a young baby. I'll never know, right?
Genetics are a thing, and being too far down the rabbit hole can also.
Yeah. So I'll never know, but there is a side of that to him, and that comes in with the management and the structure that I keep as a part of his life in order to keep him in that new mindset. At the same time as when I was going through all of this, thank God I lost my previous job, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. So if you're ever listening to this thing, thank you for firing me. And I was going away. I needed a place to board my dog. I found a place locally to board my dog, and I casually said, "Hey, can I work here when I come back?" Because I had no job. So I was like, why not? I'll play with puppies all day. And I got a job working at a daycare. It was a daycare boarding, grooming place with no structure at all. And I was given my first day there, I was given a water bottle and said, "Here's the group of dogs to watch. Yeah, this is your tool to keep them calm and from fighting. Make sure they don't fight and that they're not too loud." That was my training. And I obviously couldn't live like that because I hated going home with a headache. And I slowly started to figure out that I can have control over a whole group of dogs without any tools or anything like that, but by my presence and the way that I present myself and the energy that I give off, and by who I am as a person around them and with them, and by having a presence, essentially, is what I would say. It's a very hard thing to describe it because there wasn't some special thing.
It's one of those things that like I look for when I watch dog trainers train. And when you added me on Facebook, like I was like I just looked at your shit more and more, and I was like, I like this dude. Like, and like I like the way that like you present yourself and the way that like you move. The way you move is very you. Like, and I think your training style is very you. Like the way that we teach place is different, but it works, right? There's many ways to skin a cat. There's many ways to skin a cat in this fucking industry, and it works for you. And I think that that's one of those things like that's so important in this industry, is that you find who you are in the craft, right? Yep. And then you respect others that have found their way in the craft. That's why, like, when I was watching you, I was like, God, this dude's fucking legit. Like, you had a very different energy about you, right? Like very different, very, very different. Like when I train dogs, it's like Motorhead is playing in the background.
I go into like a Zen space. Like I'm in like a flow space.
Yeah. Like, and that's where I was gonna go. I was like, man, it's almost like you're doing like vinyasa, right? Like it's like there's this like crazy flow going on, and like it's very like synergetic between you and dog, right? And I think because it obviously takes connection with the dog to get the dog to fucking function, like period. I think relationship is the most important part of this whole process. And so like I was like, this dude's naturally forming these relationships in this like, you know, Zen state. I form my relationships with the dogs in a very different state where it's like we kind of like bro down, right? Like like we're buds. Like I love this dog. Like or like That's my girl. I prefer working with female dogs personally. I love. What's that?
Why? I'm just curious why.
It's the energy that the female dog has, man. Like I just connect with it more. It's so like, I feel like that the male dogs are more needy and cuddly.
Interesting.
Like for me, like my wolf hybrid, he's like neediest motherfucker in the entire world, dude. Like he just wants to fucking cuddle all day and like he's very forgiving behaviorally. Like he's the good.
Because from my personal dog. So now I have 3 dogs. I have my first dog, my Marley, who's my wild child, but I have 3 dogs now, and 2 of them are male. 1 is female. My female is the most cuddliest, and that's why it's interesting that you say that, because and that's just my personal dynamic of my dogs. Like my golden retriever, he'll be fine if he never sees me again. And like we have an awesome relationship, but like if you came and took him, he'd be like, whatever, this is my new guy. Like that's it.
He'd make it. He's cool.
Yeah. But like my pit, the female, like she's like needy and she wants to be around me and she wants cuddles and touch.
Oh, that's so interesting. Like my female, she's also a foxhound Malinois mix, so maybe that could be like, your face just dropped. Like, oh, dude, she's an abomination. Like, but she's just like so independent, but like fiercely fucking loyal and just like so cool. Her name's Sparrow. Like, she's fucking rad. She's smart as shit and just so cool. And then Diesel Wolf, he's just like, he's like Zen, bro. Like if you were like a dog being, like you would be him. Like he's just, you could tell he's just like, if he were a person, he'd be full of, here's my anthropomorphic shit, right? But it just shows you gotta have a heart with it too. Like
we all do that. It's human to do that.
Yeah, like
right?
If he were a person, he'd be Gandalf the White. Like, you know, like he'd just be like this all-encompassing wizard. And then Ashley's dog, Levi, he's a border collie Australian cattle dog mix. That motherfucker is a worker. Like, I mean, that dog needs to work.
That's a lot of energy right there.
Mental energy. Like,
yeah.
Like, and being work doesn't mean, you know, you get ran in a field, but he's the best Frisbee dog. He's incredible at Frisbee. Like, he wags his fucking tail as he's jumping up for a fucking Frisbee. Like, he's incredible. But like, this dude can differentiate. Like, Ashley taught him to differentiate between like 50 toys.
That's really cool.
Like it is fucking crazy. And like, he learned place in the first try. Like, he's just such a computer, right? And they're all like individually very smart. Like,
yeah.
Like,
I think that's what's cool about having multiple dogs. I mean, I don't recommend it to average people, but if you anyways work with dogs all the time, yeah. But like, anyways, if you're a dog crazy like us, like having multiple dogs is a very cool thing to personally see that dynamic. Each of my dogs are extremely smart. They're dogs. Dogs are smart, but like each of them are smart in different ways. Like my golden retriever, he makes the other 2 kind of look dumb sometimes, right? But it's a different type of smart, and I see it being very different with all of them. I think it's a cool dynamic to have multiples like that.
It's because they value different things, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So they find out how to get what they value. And like with Levi, it's about getting to work and playing and like exercising that. So he figured out how to get that shit to happen, right?
Yeah.
Sparrow is the easiest dog in the world. Like, if we want to, like with her, I don't know how the fuck I nailed it, but I got her like to the point to where whenever I'm calm, and she's been like this since she was a puppy. When I'm chilling, she's chilling. When I'm riling up, she's riling up.
That's connection.
Yes. She's my spirit dog. Like, like when she just turned 6, when that dog goes, because like now we're starting to be on the, you know, like,
over the hump.
Yeah, we're over halfway. And when that dog goes, she's going to take a piece of my heart, my mind, and my soul with her, because that dog has been with me through so much shit. And I swear to you, as much as we don't want to be anthropomorphic and we want to be professional, but trauma bonding is a fucking thing for both dogs and people. And the more and more that I work with dogs, the more I realize how special that interspecies relationship is that we have bouncing off of one another. I think we take it for granted, and I think we look at dogs as humans. As humans, we look at dogs as just like these everlasting gobstoppers of love for 12, 15 years. But in actuality, the interspecies relationship is incredible. Like, we each give each other a hormonal release when we touch each other.
It's genetically ingrained in both us and dogs that this is something special.
I just got goosebumps. Like my fucking like hair is standing on my body because it is such a special thing that like we have to honor it for what it is. And like, which is why I went to the balance side of dog training is that I'm, instead of making dogs people, right? Which is what pure positive dog training is.
Respect the dog for the beautiful animal that it is.
Honor it. Not even respect, but fucking honor that creature. Like, honor that being for being such a resilient badass. Like, forgiving and like just so good. Like, from the purity standpoint, not in action, not in the things that dogs do, but just from like the purity aspect of behavior, like from the behavioral side of things. You look at these animals and it's just like, you are so good. Like, you are so good. And just the way you are, and the fact that we look at these animals and we want to like throw our science fucking back peer-reviewed studies like at them when they're giving us the manual on how to operate with them every day in the way that they behave.
Your dog doesn't give a shit about how many books you read or the studies you've done.
No. And that's what I always tell people too. Like, you know, pure positive dog trainers. I'm like, how many Victoria Stilwell or Dr. Yin books have you fucking put down? Oh, everything that's ever been written, right? But you still can't get that dog to heal.
Yeah, the dog doesn't give a shit. It's like, your books are great, but they weren't written by a dog. Follow what I tell you to do. It's going to work.
Correct. And like, my favorite argument that the pure positive side has is, I love this. Well, we're not dogs. It's like, you're damn right we're not dogs.
But he's a dog.
Yeah, but he's a dog. So we should be understanding enough that we are of higher intellect that we can learn to communicate with them in their language before they're going to learn to communicate with us in a fucking made-up system of training, which we just project onto them to work. Like, and then we get frustrated when the dog isn't working the way we need it to. It's not fair to the dog, which is why euthanasia ratings went through the fucking roof in England since the e-collar and prong collar, like, you can't punish a dog. Like, you look at Germany,
yeah,
you can't even yell at a dog in public without getting fined.
It's crazy. It's crazy because I don't understand how people like you file. This is just a simple thing that I don't get. And I'm no science person and I'm not smart and I suck with statistics and numbers. But if you ban a tool and then afterwards, or you ban a way of training, and then afterwards the euthanasia rate goes up, I think you don't have to be too smart to see that there's probably a correlation that we should look into here.
Correct. Well, but the thing is that there's no money to be made in solving people's problems.
I think there is. I think you.
There is. But I mean, like, for sure. But in the dog training world, in the grand scheme of things, you and I and trainers who are listening to this right now, who are balanced trainers, we're the outlaws. And because at the end of the day, this industry, and like, I'm just throwing a number out there, is probably 75, 80% pure positive reinforcement. And like, we are consistently attacked from the pure positive side, that the last thing that we should do is attack each other right now. And like, which is why I said earlier, you don't train place the way that I train place. It works for you though. It works for you. So like, I'm not going to be like, that's the wrong way to do it. Like, I'm not so far up my own fucking ass to where I think that other people's ways of training aren't valid. That's where we're getting a lot of fucking people on the balance side who think that their way is the only way. And it's just not true. There are many ways to skin a cat. And it would be really great if we could all put our tools together in the same toolbox without saying that someone else's tool isn't as relevant as ours simply because they haven't, simply because that tool that they have wasn't conceived by us.
Yeah,
So
the one way to training only mindset is allowing ego to let dogs die. Because if I had to train the way someone else, if everyone had to train the way one person trains and that's the standard, then a lot of people wouldn't be training dogs, and a lot of dogs would be dead and wouldn't be staying in their homes.
dude, isn't that the fucking truth of the matter? Or like, you know, I was one of the first guys. I don't agree with everything Gelman does, right? I don't. Like, but I was one of the first guys to stand up for Gelman when it came to the bonking thing. Like, I don't know what actually went down in that seminar, right? Like, I don't know. But the client testimony said a lot, first and foremost. The dog
full picture thing, like I said before. When there's no full picture, then you have no right to talk about it.
That's exactly it. And me having been at the end of that scope, or like whatever, you know, in January, February, I can't even imagine how someone like Jeff like was impacted by this, because like at the end of the day, all of us have learned something from Jeff Gelman. Like, I don't care who the fuck you are. Like, if you're a balanced dog trainer, you've watched Gelman and hate him or love him and went, oh, fuck, okay, that makes sense. Like, or you went, because he was one of the guys that introduced me to all that shit, right? Now,
I think most trainers, or at least if you want to say younger trainers who are going to be honest and say the truth, will say that at some point in their training journey, in their education, they learned from Jeff. And for that alone, it's like, shut the fuck up and back him. I never spoke about any of this stuff publicly, but if it's on the topic, like, that's what I think.
Like,
back somebody who's helping you.
Like it takes me to come. It takes person to come. It like takes me to come.
Because I'm that very neutral guy. I just do my thing, stay in my lane.
And like I definitely appreciate it, but like for me, once I was introduced to the e-collar, I realized that low-level work is very effective. And so like I was introduced to the e-collar by Gelman, but then I was refined by Crohn's techniques, right? Like, because I mean,
that became Jonas's technique, and it works.
Exactly. So like I made everything my own, right? Like I teach place in a very Tyler Mito fashion, right? I love Tyler. Tyler's fucking awesome. I'll credit him all day. I think he's a fantastic dog trainer. And then like the e-collar shit, I mainly mimic if it comes to Chrome. Now, in my explanation of the e-collar, I'm not like Larry's like the nicest dude alive, right? Like whenever he's speaking, like he's so nice. But like I take his ideas of the e-collar and I apply them in my training, but I still believe that the e-collar in its nature is a punitive tool, right? Like I think that that's the inception of the e-collar, and I think we're allowed to say that it's a punitive tool. Now, can we make that stimulation have an association? Absolutely. But we're still giving something to change behavior, which is going to be punishment.
Yeah. I think that's when it boils down to it, that's what it is. You could sugarcoat it and make it sound like whatever you want, but it's punishment. It is what it is. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think there's a reason to necessarily sugarcoat it. And if that works for the way someone else explains it, by all means. But for me, I think it's like, this is what it is. But the reason why it works is because it has that punishment aspect to it.
100%. Like 100%. And there's nothing wrong with saying that punishment fucking works.
Yeah, punishment is not a bad word. That's the whole problem with all of this, is that punishment has become the worst word in the world. It's equated with abuse, and there's a massive difference. Punishment is literally a communication. It's a way of teaching. It's information. Right. And if you're okay with giving one part of information but not the other, you're being mean to the dog.
Right. You just fucking nailed it. And I think the line is drawn between punishment and abuse is when the dog has no idea what the fuck is going on.
Right. Like, and that's why there's the way so many people view punishment is, from what I've spoken to people, is that punishment is this angry, mean thing to the dog. Right. And the reality is that just like there's a right and wrong way to use a clicker and a reward, there's a right and wrong way to punish. And if you don't know how to reward properly, you will also fuck a dog up. And if you don't know how to punish properly, obviously you will. So there's a right and wrong way to do it. That's why there's dog trainers. That's why there's people who do this. but it
Right.
doesn't mean that it's wrong. It doesn't mean that punishment is bad. That's like, because you can kill someone with a hammer doesn't mean that hammers are bad.
Right. Right. That's exactly it. Same with guns, in my opinion. I got a fucking AR-15 like right next to me right now.
America.
Like, oh man, fucking Second Amendment rights and Black Lives Matter. Who would have thought, right? Like we like we can take things from every toolbox and from every like. You know, when I was on tour with my band, I read a lot of theology shit, you know, like, and you know what the number one teaching from every great religion is? Don't be a fucking asshole. Like,
it boils down to that. If you want to boil down like anything good from any religion, just don't be a dick. Like, be a good.
Like, look, just don't be an asshole, and we're good. That's all I'm gonna ask for right now. Just like, don't be an asshole, and we're all right. And like, I think a lot of people. I think there's something to be said that every great doctrine has that as its number one thing is don't be an asshole. Like we can learn from that, and like now somebody like me, if you're gonna step to me and you're gonna, I will step back. You know, I have no problem puffing up to somebody. I have no problem doing it. That's just who I've been. It's the way that I grew up. It's the way that I am. But when I'm wrong, I'll admit it. And when I fucked up, I'll say I'm sorry. And you know, and it's again, you know, it's like when I posted that video, like I fucked up. Maybe I shouldn't have posted a video of a pit bull shaking on a place board, you know, like maybe it's not the best representation of balanced training. I was just so proud that dog went from euthanasia. 90 minutes later, the owner had hope and everything was cool. You know, like,
shift topic for a second. So, and I ask this question to every trainer who I talk to, so it's an important one. If there was one thing that you could have every single dog owner in the world know, they're all listening now, what would that be?
Oh man, there's so many things. Like one thing, it would probably be the one thing that would put me out of business, which is honestly, watch when you give affection. Like, I think watch when you give affection. It's you know, if you pet a dog in an anxious state of mind or in a fearful state of mind, or especially at a young pup, like fucking. Actually, one thing. Are you ready for this? It's a very unpopular opinion, and we'll see where you stand. Hopefully the chat room blows up. I can't see it, but we'll see. Puppies are for teaching. Dogs are for loving. So those.
Yeah, I fucking love that.
That's what I would want everybody to know. Puppies are to teach. Dogs are to love. And I think everybody just goes like, because everybody makes the puppy out to be such a baby, that dog is developing like 8 to 10 times faster than the human. that thing is learning to survive. That thing is not here as a puppy to fucking like be cute, and like that dog's learning to survive. So teach the dog how it's going to survive, because everything regarding canine behavior is about survival. And so like it's like once that dog learns to survive in a calm state, you're never going to have an issue. So take it at a young age. Dogs are for loving, puppies are for teaching. And I did that. Yeah, go ahead.
I think that even applies to, because so many people get adult dogs, right? They adopt dogs, shelters, rescues. But I think the same thing applies from what you're saying. And I totally agree with that idea. But when you first get a dog, don't love it yet. Teach it, right? Regardless of its age. Teach it.
Why the fuck would you love it? You don't know that dog yet.
Right. And if you build your relationship through teaching, I guarantee you're going to love it so much more for the rest of its life.
And that dog will love you in turn. Like, while so many studies have shown that dogs do experience love and emotion, you clearly know if your dog loves you or not. Like, you know, like I firmly believe that dogs express love. Firmly fucking believe it. And there are a bunch of balance trainers who don't, but like, I don't care. Like, fuck you. I want to believe that my dog loves me. And like,
there's nothing wrong with it. We get dogs. At the end of the day, no matter how professional you are, unless you like have a working dog or something that never, I don't know, sleeps in a different house and it's just a work tool.
Sure.
But like if you have a pet dog, which this is what this is pet dog training, then you love that animal and you believe it loves you back. That's the relationship. You should.
And let me fucking throw this out here. My favorite dog trainers in this world are not Bart Bellin. They're not Michael Ellis. They're not fucking like, you know, Cody Talent or like things like the great dog trainers. Like I fucking respect bite work. I've done bite work. I've done like that shit. My favorite dog trainers in this world are pet dog trainers who have the fucking balls to be balanced in an industry that's going to chastise your ass, and who have the fucking drive to get better and better and better, and whether that means increasing your skill sets or like listening to other dog trainers or just continuously doing work and more work, because that's the only way you're ever going to truly get better. We can all go sit at people's seminars and fucking like listen to them, but the only way you're ever going to get better is by fucking training dogs.
Yeah.
And
dogs teach dog training.
Yeah, and if you don't feel comfortable, you know, charging clients yet, then you don't charge clients and you keep doing free work until you feel comfortable charging clients and you think that there's value to your work. It took me, I started this company when I was 30, 22 years until I charged my first dime. But my results are or my company's results, they're not just mine anymore. My trainers, like, they apprentice with me for free. Like, they come here, like, you know, some of them have moved here for me. Like, they come here to work underneath me because they know that after my apprenticeship program, there's job placement. Like, I don't charge dog trainers to learn how to train dogs with me. If anybody is a dog trainer out there that wants to come learn to train dogs for me, yeah, I fucking honor that. Come get an Airbnb, hang out however long you fucking want. I'm not putting you up.
Like, go sleep somewhere else, but you can hang out with me with dogs.
Come get an Airbnb. Come to Austin. You want to learn how we do it here? We'll show you for free. You don't even have to fucking give us credit for it. Just come learn and see the amazing results that we get down here consistently for free. Like, I don't charge people to come to seminars. Why the fuck would people pay to listen to me talk about dogs? I'm fortunate enough to get paid to work with dogs. Like, if people want to listen to me to learn how to be a better dog trainer, holy shit. Like, fucking thank you, universe. Like, that's amazing to me. Like, that's incredible to me. So until I feel comfortable charging people to teach them how to train dogs better, come hang out for free, you know, like, and if nothing else, I
hope someone takes you up on that offer. I hope somebody does. I hope someone's like, yo, I heard you talking on Russ's thing, and like, I'm coming down to Austin.
Come, like I've had literally the last year, I think or the year before. The year before, we had like 15 people come down and learn. Like, so cool. Yeah, just for fucking free. Like, you get in my truck with me, we fucking ride around, we take clients together. I teach you how to sell balanced approach training. I'll teach you how to be a proper representative of balanced approach training. I'll teach you how to not fucking turn people off. If I can go into a client's home like this, and get them to trust me with their dog, so can you. I fucking promise. Yeah. And it's just about knowing your shit. You know, how many balance trainers have I mean, for me, because I do free business consultations, and like, I'm like, sell me on training, you know? And they're like, oh, well, you know, prong collars. It's like, oh, wrong. like you opened your argument, you opened your pitch with prong collars. No, you open your pitch with relationship.
Helping the person. What's your problem? What can I do for you?
Helping, being empathetic.
Yeah. And well, that's where it goes back to that. This, no matter how good you are with dogs, we work with family pet dogs, and we have to be good with people, and you have to be a people person. And you can say like, oh, I'd much rather be around dogs than people. Like, you kind of threw that in, but I think like, if you don't like people, you're not going to ever have success. End of the day.
And you're so correct. And like, if you look at some people's reviews, people that have come after me, right? People that have come after me, and like, not just one, but a couple of them. Because I'm always like, oh, let's see what their business is about, right? Like, because your online presence and your business are two completely different fucking things, right? So, or for most people, for me anyway, that's why I've kept the Jonas Black brand separate from the K911 brand. But I went and I checked out some Yelp, and a lot of these people's Yelp, they don't look like mine. Mine is hundreds of 5-star reviews. Like, we are all 5-star rated. We have won #1 in Austin last 4 years in a row. And like, what ends up happening with all these people that come after me is that, like, I go on under their Yelp, and there's always one or two. When I went in, this person said I was my dog's bitch, and fucking, like, I had to end up, like, and it's funny, like, when you read it, when you're a balance trainer, you're like, oh, it's hilarious, but that's not going to be a good representation of the balanced approach of training for your client. And then on that review, it says, I went to a positive behavioralist, which is like the worst word ever. Behavioralist, like with an L, it drives me nuts. Behaviorist is already an outdated term, first and foremost. Like, it's a very psychologically outdated term. And then you get it wrong on top of it. So it's just funny. But, you know, you talk about, you know, you literally turn someone off to the idea of punishing a dog because you were a dick. And then they went to a pure positive trainer and they rep that on your fucking Yelp.
You got to say it, and this is just in general in life. This is not dog training. You got to say it the way you'd want to hear it.
Yeah.
And that's really, if you want to send a message, say it the way you want to hear it.
And that's exactly it. And like, the crazy thing about that, is everybody's different in the way they want to hear things, right?
And that's why everyone's going to be attracted to a different trainer.
But it's the authenticity behind it that can get me to walk into an elderly couple's home, sit down, and sell them dog training because they know I'm authentic. I started off going in with an iPad and showing demos with my demo dog and shit, just like everybody else. And now I don't do that anymore. Like, now I pull up on my Harley or my truck and I go sit down and I walk and I say, how the fuck are we doing today? You
go straight in. You break the ice right away.
The ice, they know right away if we're going to work together or not. But like, it's one of those things where, like, it works for me, right? I've helped people. There's a business in New Jersey, Training That Heals, with Rachel Fury. We did some stuff there and I helped them build their business up, and they're doing fucking wonderful. But I would never in a million years tell Rachel to go into their client's home. How the fuck are you? That wouldn't work for her.
If I did that, it wouldn't work. It's not me.
No.
They'd be like, who gave you that script? Yeah, it's all about authenticity. At the end of the day, being a good person, doing things right, being a good dog trainer, selling yourself, marketing, all these things, it all boils down to being yourself and being authentically yourself, not what someone else tells you is being yourself. Because what's being yourself is very different than being myself. And like, that's the beauty of it. And that's why, and I think that, like, specifically with marketing, but in general in life, is like we're attracting our tribe. Right? We're attracting the people to us. And if you're not authentically yourself, you're attracting the wrong people and you're going to end up regretting it. Then you're going to have to start all over and get a whole new tribe when you finally figure out that wasn't me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's best to just be yourself and,
and
just move forward. And like, if you're yourself, you're good. If anybody takes anything from this, from me, it's like, just be yourself. People are going to fall off. You don't want them anyway. Like, just be you. You know, fucking, we're on track this year to do up in the upper 6 figures in dog training, right? Like, we did it as a fucking, like, company who never sold out. Like, I've never had to suck someone's dick or like crawl up someone's ass. Like, you can do it. Just do really good work
and be yourself. I think it's the two most important parts: be good at what you do and be good at being yourself.
They're equally as important.
Yeah.
Like, I've met a bunch of great dog trainers that I wouldn't fucking associate with or won't want to give my money to, you know, who were good dog trainers. But I was like, I don't want to work with that person, because at the end of the day, I have to like who I'm giving my money to.
Yeah. Sales is a relationship.
Yeah.
You're not just buying a slice of pizza. This is somebody's family member.
This is, it's trust, and it's huge. And a lot of people abuse that trust. So,
all right, let's wrap it up on that. Be kind, people. Be yourself. That's the main thing.
Don't be assholes. Listen to Black people.
Be yourself. Be kind. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. This was a lot of fun. I love you all. Have a great night, everyone. And remember to stay kind. 1 second.